Good evening and welcome to the Monday, June 14th, 2021 Administrative and Public Works Committee. My name is Alden Braithwaite. I'm the chair. We have a quorum. Item 1, we just have to read in the suspension of rules. Councilmember Newsom, would you like to read us in?
Make a motion to suspend the rules for in-person attendance requirements for public meetings and allow remote participation.
Councilmember Newsom, turn his microphone on.
Yes, thank you. Move to suspend the rules for in-person attendance requirements for public meetings and allow remote participation in accordance with an executive order issued by Governor Pritzker.
Is there a second?
I second that.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Director?
Councilmember Kelly,
Aye.
Councilmember Braithwaite,
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns, Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Perfect. All right, we'll move on to the next item, which, are there any items that you would like to remove from the consent calendar? You want me to do minutes first? Okay, no problem. Is there a motion to approve the minutes of the regular admin and public works meeting of,
I'll move to approve the minutes of the regular A&PW committee meeting of April 26th, 2021.
is there a second?
I'll second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there any changes, edits, comments? Seeing none, Director?
Councilmember Kelly,
Aye.
Councilmember Braithwaite,
Aye.
Councilmember Newsma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns, Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
All right, we'll keep on moving.
I
Now
apologize.
that brings
I
us
just wanna
to.
know, I'm not hearing Councilmember Burns' vote. I think it's.
He's not present.
Oh, okay.
Next, we have public comment. Is there a list, Director?
Yes, there is.
All right.
Glenn Cole.
How many folks do we have?
We have 4, but one was supposed to be in person and they're not here, so I'm
Okay.
assuming 3.
Is it 3 minutes?
Yes,
And are you keeping track of time? Or do you want me to?
I can.
Okay. All right, we have three residents that have signed up for public comments. I've asked Director Stonebeck to please keep time. Our first resident is Glenn Cole, and I'm going to assume that's a Mr. Cole. Which item are you speaking to on the agenda? Mr. Cole, are you with us? Okay, Mr. Cole going once, Mr. Cole going twice.
Oh, right here, sir. I apologize. Had a little bit of technical difficulties.
That's all right. Welcome. You have 3 minutes. And can you please let us know which item are you speaking to tonight?
Yes, I'm not speaking to an item on tonight's agenda. I believe it's within the purview of this commission or committee, though.
Okay, you have 3 minutes.
Okay. Yeah, so I'm here visiting you very briefly. Thank you for letting me speak. This is hopefully the best kind of public comment to hear in a public meeting. It is a problem that the city did not create, but I hope a problem that the city can help resolve. So last Wednesday, Metra announced that a new pilot timetable for the Union Pacific North trains, and that timetable will effectively end the ability of many people to reverse commute from Main Street and Central Street. A lot of trains will start to skip Main Street, skip Central Street on the way further north. And that affects about 120 Evanston residents. That includes myself. So that's not great. Again, that takes away the ability of a lot of residents to commute. That takes away from the city's transit-oriented development strategy. And it was announced as a done deal without really an opportunity for the public to give any input, without any prior notice to the city. It's very unfortunate, and I would call it a mistake. And really, it's kind of coming at a time when there's an opportunity on Wednesday for members of the public or for the city or for anyone else to make their feedback known to Metra's board of directors before that timetable will come into effect in July. So what I'm really hoping to do is just to raise some awareness from this, on this issue from the city. Certainly, I've been in touch with a few of Evanston's elected officials. Really appreciate that. Really appreciate the press release that came in Friday to make sure that residents knew, and just appreciate any engagement on this issue. I do want to say one more thing quickly, and then I'll wrap it up. Unrelated to the Metro item, I feel like most public comment in the city is usually, as I alluded to, about bad things happening in the city. I feel like it's not usually very positive. I just wanted to say I appreciate your service, certainly appreciate the service of our city staff. I think we have a great staff here in Evanston. And it's sad that more people don't recognize that, so I thought I would. So thank you again for listening. Really appreciate it.
Thank you very much, and I couldn't agree with you more, Mr. Cole. Next up, we have Mike Vasilko. Mr. Vasilko?
Hi, I'm just here, just joined.
Thank you. Are you speaking to any specific item?
A couple.
Okay.
There was, so you're reviewing
You have
bills
3
in the
minutes,
amount of
sir.
stuff. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir. I was just stating you have 3 minutes. Please go right ahead. We're listening.
You have bills in the order of $7 million this year. Or this month. That's ridiculous in my opinion. And I hope council is going to pick it apart and reject some things. I'm curious about A6. We keep extending the date of emergency, the state of emergency date, but you guys are now meeting in person. So I'm wondering why we have to keep extending that. I know I haven't attended a council meeting at the council, but I'd like to know when that's going to be concluded. And there's one more important item. Oh, the sale of surplus property. A14, it says specifically that you're selling vehicles, which I'm glad to hear, since it seems like we've ordered new vehicles forever, and there probably aren't any cars or trucks or any other vehicles that aren't new in the city fleet. So I just want to make sure that it says surplus city property, that this can't be used to sell, this ordinance can't be used to sell other types of property, land or buildings without approval of the council. So I'd like somebody to clarify that for me. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Vasilko. Next up, we have Joe.
This is supposed to be in person, so.
Joe Goodman. Mr. Goodman, are you with us this evening? Mr. Goodman going once. Mr. Goodman going twice. We'll circle back. Next, we have Mary.
No,
Nope.
this is the only one.
Eve Russell.
They're
Did I-
supposed to be in person.
And I apologize, I can't tell if that's a Mr. or Mrs. Mr. or Mrs. Russell, going once, going twice. All right, we'll keep moving forward. Next, we have the consent calendar. Councilmember Newsman Kelly, we have item A2 and
Eight
A13 and 14.
and 6.
I'm sorry, say that again, please.
I'm sorry, A2, A6, A13, and 14.
Okay, give me one quick second to go back and get A6.
I'm making notes.
Okay, perfect. All right.
Check with the
Councilmember
Councilmember Reed.
Reed, did you have any items to be removed from consent?
No, I do not.
All right, thank you very much, sir. All right, so just at a quick overview, we have item A1, which is approval of the City of Evanston's payroll bills list. Staff's recommending City's Council's approval for the City of Evanston's payroll for period May 10th, 2010 through May 23rd in the dollar amount of $2,787,552.60. And for June 15th, in the dollar amount of $6,906,210.68. Item A2 is going to be skipped. Item A3 is a 3-year sole source software and service database and business license agreement with Acelia at the cost of $398,915.61. This is for action. Item A4 is approval of a 1-year contract with Corrective Asphalt Materials for the Reclamite, did I pronounce that right?
Reclamite.
Thank you. Reclamite Pavement Rejuvenation Program, and that is also for action. We also have item A5, which is change order number 6 with Thieneman Construction, Inc. for Clearwell 9 replacement contract. And then that's in the dollar amount of $100,023,640.03. We're going to hold over item A6. Item 7 is Resolution 64-R-21, authorizing the city manager to execute a master agreement with the Illinois Department of Transportation for state-maintained traffic signals and government body maintenance traffic devices. That is also for action. We also have item A8, which is Resolution 60-R-21, authorizing the city manager to grant an easement for steam infrastructure repair on Emerson Street. That is also for action. Item A9, Resolution 63-R-21, authorizing city manager to sign the intergovernmental agreement with PACE. That is for action. Item A10 is Ordinance 52-0-21, amending Title 8, Chapter 4 of the City Code concerning municipal solid waste. We also have item 11, which is for introduction, Ordinance 45-0-21, amending Title 7, Chapter 8, Section 4, restricted parkway planting. Staff's recommending that our city council table that for consideration.
That one should,
My apologies, Chair. I would like to remove the solid waste issue from the consent agenda.
Okay, realize that is just for introduction.
Yeah.
Okay, what were you saying about I-11?
Parkway should come off too. 'cause
That's what I-
bring that to another meeting.
Okay. So item A11 is held over to our next meeting?
No.
No?
Let's pull it off consent and then we'll talk about it.
Okay, got it. We're going to hold that, pull it off, and then A11 off. No worries, no worries. All right. Next up for introduction, we have Ordinance 59-021, amending Title 10, Chapter 11, Section 9, Schedule 9, parking prohibited at certain times at Hartree Avenue.
13 and 14 are off.
Yep, 13. Who said 14? I only have 14.
Yeah, they're both off.
They're both off, okay. Thank you. That is for introduction. We also have item A15, which is Ordinance 64-0-21, amending the hotel tax. Staff recommends the approval of this ordinance, amending the Sections 3, Chapter 2, Section 4, City Code concerning hotel, motel, bed and breakfast establishments, and vacation tax. Again, that is for introduction. Okay. Is there a motion to approve the consent agenda minus the stated items?
I'll move to approve.
It's been properly moved. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Director, call the roll, please.
Councilmember Kelly,
Aye.
Councilmember Braithwaite,
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
Perfect. All right. This one is for action, item A2, which is the approval and amendment of the fiscal year 2021 action plan that allocates $26,768 in additional CBDG funding for 3 goals that plan. Staff recommends the approval of the amendment from fiscal year 2021's action plan to reallocate $26,768. In addition to CBD funding, there are 3 goals in the action plan. The revised 2021 action plan will be submitted to HUD for approval following the City Council's approval of the amendment. The funding source of the city's CBDG entitlement grant the city received a notification from HUD that there was an error in the 2021 allocation for the City of Evanston revised 2021 CBDG grant, and the dollar amount of $1,843,261, an increase of $26,768 from the original grant award, which brings it up to $1,816 and 493. Excuse me. This is for action. Is there a second?
I'll second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Councilman?
Can I ask a question?
This is where, absolutely you can. Please do.
Okay, thanks for your patience. So I just wanted to understand, I realize it's not, a terribly significant amount, but how the division of this additional funding that, was mistakenly not added until now, how it was determined to put, 4,000 for the administrative goal and, another 4,000 for the public services goal and 17,000 for capital improvements. Like, how were those numbers arrived at?
We have Sarah Flax with our community development here to answer questions. Ms. Flax, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Chairman Braithwaite, and thank you, council members on the APW committee. This is the second year that HUD's made a formula error. One of the things, there are certain things that are standard with our CDBG allocations. We are allowed to use 20% of our grant for administration of the grant. So the increase to that is just to be 20% of the current grant budget. We are also allowed to use 15% of our grant for public services. So again, we've increased that to the maximum amount that we can use. The other categories that we are using funding in, because this is substantially well into our year, we've already funded our public works projects, which includes paving 2 alleys. We've funded other things like our housing rehab program. We've funded our code enforcement program. The remaining thing to be allocated is some of the funding that will be for organizations, nonprofits, to apply for capital projects. And since that is the remaining kind of category, if you will, that's coming up, we've recommended putting it into our livable communities goals, which is our most flexible goal for capital projects, including it would be then made available as part of the budget for the nonprofits to apply for.
Thank you very much for your quick recap for our newer members. So thank you very much, Sarah, because you do an excellent job just managing our community development block grant, and just over the years, there's so many details. So at the end of every year, for some reason, just based on the federal calculations, I want to be careful to say that we don't always find ourselves with a little surplus, but we're lucky when we do, and then that gives us an opportunity to go back to the drawing board and sometimes provide a little extra funding for our most neediest, whether it's our non-for-profits or our projects. So thank you very much for sharing that, Sarah, and I'm looking forward to our first meeting under our news council. Councilmember Kelly, do you have any other additional questions?
So, yeah, I won't go on much longer on this. I'm just trying to understand, since it's the first time, just, since we're allowed to put, 20% towards administrative overhead, I mean, do we need to?
Here to speak.
I mean, do we just max out? I mean, I realize it's only 4,000, but I'm just trying to understand, I mean, did we decide like that was necessary as opposed to putting it towards an area that was more needed?
I can give you a perspective that historically we have always allocated it. In some cases, when we do not need it, and this could be a year like that, but it's hard to say because we have a lot of different projects and activities going on. But What happens is we then allocate it in the subsequent, if it is not expended for administration in this year, we will then reallocate it to other goals in the next year's action plan.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Seeing no,
I'm sorry, I have one question about this, Chairman. Sarah, how long do we have to spend the funds?
We have the calendar year 2021, and we can put our administrative costs back to the start of our fiscal year. One of the challenges is the federal government, as you've probably noticed, doesn't have its budget at the start of its fiscal year, but we have to have a draft action plan that we post before the start of our fiscal year in order to be able to do that. So this is how we have to operate in order to fund ongoing programs.
I don't want to interrupt, just for time's sake. So essentially we have 2 years. Every year that we receive funds, we have 2 years to spend it, right?
We have 1 year for the administrative funding. We have up to 8 years for some of the other types of funding. We have, it's very, I'd be happy to explain it to you in detail. It's different for different categories, just to make it more complicated.
Yeah, that's very, that's very helpful. Thank you very much.
all right.
One last question,
Thank you.
if I may. So I know that the bulk of this goes to the livable communities. Is that, what % of that is, so to speak, outsourced to private nonprofits?
Usually, we have expended someplace between, it could be as low as 50,000. In some years, it's been as high as almost 200,000. It depends a lot on their projects. And we know we have a number of agencies that are interested in capital projects that they need done. One of the things that CDBG is an important source of is deferred maintenance type projects. These are not necessarily sexy things that can build a capital campaign around and raise a lot of money, but that are really important to the organization's ongoing functioning.
So in other words, of that $730,000, a very small portion? So you're saying 50,000?
Hang on, not this year. It is, I can tell you what it is I just need to get into that spreadsheet. I
And Sarah,
apologize,
while
it's
you're
open right now.
And while you're
But,
looking,
it would be approximately the amount that would be given, would be available to be given out. This is one of the joys of working from home when your computer is slow. Is
Newsom, was your question for Sarah also? It is, yes. Okay. Do you mind teeing it up while she's looking for that information?
Yeah, I'm just having trouble with
Take
my
your time.
computer
Take
pulling
your
up my
time.
spreadsheet, so
And your question
sorry
is?
for the delay.
I'm just doing a math check and coming up with a difference of $1,339, which I'm hoping Ms. Flax can explain very easily.
What page are you on?
Page 50 of the packet,
Thank you.
4,015 plus 4,015 plus 17,399 equals 25,429. So we're allocating that much, but
Did you say
we're
page
looking for
51?
26,768.
You said page 51?
Yeah, at the top of page 50,
50.
50,
it says what we're going to, the three items that we're spending.
okay.
I got to believe that they're both
The
4015.
goals,
Yeah.
I mean,
Do
we
you wanna
have
fact check that while we're
allocated
waiting?
within livable communities, we have allocated
Okay.
450,000 for,
Sarah, what I'm
Yeah.
going to ask you to do, we have two math questions, just in an interest of time. I've noted yours, and I'm going to ask Director Stonebeck to check the math. Meanwhile, we'll continue to go through the items, and then we'll come back and do a math check
Sure.
before we pass it. So
so give me
we'll
the
hold-
second,
Take your time. We're going to hold on item A2 for you to math check. We also have the question from Council Member Nusma regarding the top of page 50 in our packet.
Okay.
Sarah, can you check the amount going to administration and for public service? Both indicate it's $4,015, and I believe one of those should be a different number because you're not coming up to a total of 26,000.
I will double check those and I will get the other number and I'll raise my hand when I have it. Okay?
Perfect. Take your time. Thank you.
All right.
All right, we are now going to move to item A10.
A6.
Pardon me, I skipped A6. I didn't write that one down. A6, which is Resolution 59-R-21, extending the declare state of emergency July 12th, 2021. Is there a second? Someone want to second that?
Second.
Thank you.
Councilmember
It's been
Reed.
properly moved and seconded. Who wanted to pull this off?
I just, I thought it would fit into this discussion. I just wanted an understanding, at the city, when are we waiting for that state of emergency to be lifted before we staff City Hall? I mean, I'm just wondering when are we going to be bringing staff back? Is that
Okay.
what we're waiting for?
Good evening, council members. Dave Stomack, Public Works Director. The program to bring back staff is segmented. Some staff is starting to return now. Directors are told to work a minimum of 3 days in the office. I think it's even approaching 4 days now. But full city staff, I don't believe is expected to come back until the Monday after Labor Day in September. So we are giving them sufficient time to get ready for childcare or any other needs that they have so that they can plan to return. So they've been advised of that it's coming up in September.
So it's not in any way connected to the state of emergency?
It is not connected
Okay.
to the state of emergency, no.
Great question. All right. Seeing no further lights for discussion, Director, will you please take the roll on item A6? And again, this is for action.
Councilmember Kelly,
Aye.
Councilmember Braithwaite,
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
All right. Item passes. Next up, we have item A10, Ordinance 52-21, amending the Title 8, Chapter 4 for the City Code concerning municipal solid waste. This is for introduction. Is there a second?
Second.
Second.
All right, it's been properly moved and seconded. Councilman Reed?
Yeah, I just pulled this off. Dave, can you give a quick, minute or so synopsis of what's going on here?
Sure. Again, Dave Stomack, Public Works Agency Director. In reviewing the city code, staff found several items that were not appropriate in the current code and then crafted this ordinance to address those. So, for instance, we don't indicate that we collect recycling in dumpsters when we do, so we're adding that to this. The city code does not indicate that it's improper to put non-recyclables into a recyclable container, so we're correcting that language as well. A longstanding policy had been that if you want 2 solid waste carts, the first one has to be a 95-gallon cart. That was not in the code, so we're just placing our policy into the code, so there's no questions on that. Another item is that the code currently says that you have to clear snow away from your dumpster and your receptacles, but doesn't indicate that you have to have a clear path out to the alley. So unfortunately, some community members were clearing the snow from their dumpsters and actually making a pile of snow between their dumpster and the alley, so they still can collect the solid waste, so we're clarifying that. And then lastly, due to all the modifications to the solid waste code over the past several years, this is going to be my mistake, is that we didn't keep up with the penalties section. So we were renumbering sections of the code, but we were not correcting that in the penalty section, and this ordinance would address those concerns.
Thank you very much, sir.
You're welcome.
All right. Seeing no further lights for discussion, Director, you mind calling the roll, please? Sorry.
Councilmember Kelly,
Aye.
Councilmember Braithwaite,
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
All right. Moves forward for introduction. Item A11 is ordinance 45-0-21, amending Title 7, Chapter 8, Section Restricted Parkway Plantings. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Who had the question on this?
I have the comment on it.
Oh, yes.
So this ordinance was originally introduced at the June 14th, 2021 meeting, and at that time, it was decided to hold it in committee until today, but staff is still not ready to proceed with this. We still hold the public a public meeting to discuss this, and to give us the ample time to do that, we're asking that this be held until September 13th.
All right.
May I ask, who referred this ordinance? Where did this come from?
Staff generate the ordinance, and when we introduced it, 3 citizens made public comment. We've been in touch with those, and we've promised to have a public meeting about what we're proposing, and that just hasn't taken place yet because we want to create a web page to put it on the city's website to explain why we're making the suggestions we are.
How do we proceed? Can I make a motion to table until September 13th? To hold.
Hold to a date certain.
I'll make that motion to hold this item till a date certain, that date being September 13th, 2021.
Second. All right. Don't have to vote on that. The next item is A13. Item A13 is for introduction. It's amending City Code Section 1-7-4-2, sale of real property. This is for introduction. Is there a second?
Second.
Been properly moved and seconded. Question?
Yes, I have a question. I'd actually really just like Mr. Vasilko asked a question during the public comment, and to acknowledge his question. Director Stoneback or someone, can you opine on whether or not this would allow the city to sell any other property? Just give some clarification there, please.
Certainly. I believe Mr. Fasilko actually referenced the next item, which
Yeah,
is
the car.
A14, where we're selling the
My
car.
apologies. My apologies.
But that's right.
Then
A13 does modify the section of code that would pertain to the sale of city-owned property, such as the Civic Center or any other city-owned property. And right now, the way the current ordinance is written, it requires staff to place a notice in the paper before we even bring it to the city council to see if they're in favor of the sale of that piece of property. So this code modification would modify when the city has to put that ad in the paper. Right now, a first ordinance would be introduced to the city so that the city council would understand which piece of property the city is proposing to sell, and an ordinance would have to be passed to make that happen, allowing the city to sell the property and appointing a person to negotiate that sale of property on behalf of the city. The city would then have to place an ad in the paper to advise everybody that this specific piece of property is being sold, and then it would be negotiated, the sale price would be determined, and then we would come back to the city council with a second ordinance indicating that the city is proposing to sell this piece of property at this proposed price, and the city council would have to adopt that ordinance before the property could be sold. So it just seemed backwards to me that we would, according to this, we would have to put an ad in the paper before we came to the city council to say we'd like
Right,
to sell
right,
this property. So that's what this code modification does.
And again, who referred this one? Is this
Staff.
also a staff referral?
Yes, there are undeveloped alleys, not unimproved alleys, undeveloped, meaning that it's a city alley, but it's grass, and people are using it as their lawn. There's fences enclosing it. It's almost considered private property at this point in time. So I would like to sell this property to the various property owners that are currently more or less taking over the property. And so I would like to get that going, and I didn't want to advertise in the paper that I'd like to sell this property before I
Without
came
having
to
a
the city
council.
council
Yeah.
to say, are you okay with that measure?
So I think it's important that any sale of any public property be brought immediately, first and foremost, to the public.
Before the city council?
Council?
Correct. I think it should be, or else I would move that this be held for further discussion. I'm uncomfortable with removing that from, removing the public notice.
It's not removed.
I understand it would be after it goes to city council, but I think just like with plan commission, when we place a public notice before the plan commission, here's something so that people can come and, like, if it's going to go before city council, it'd be nice that people knew about it ahead of time, so if they'd like to speak, to comment on it.
So I'll give you an example. I have an alley in in the second ward that, and again, these are really specific things, so it's not like selling a park or anything like that. And it would make sense to have clarification and definition before you put something in the newspaper that says we're just selling an alley. So I understand your concern, and it's at the committee level that we get to vet these things out. So, I mean, I guess if you want to vote no on it, we can vote no. It is
I'd like to have more
for,
discussion on it.
well, this is discussion right now.
Right.
It takes place at the committee level, and it's just for introduction. So if there's questions that you'd like to direct to our staff, so this is our first reading, and then we're going to come back and have a second reading, right? So if there are questions to staff, just paying attention to time, let me know what those questions are, and then we can have staff come back at the next meeting, and then we can address it at the second reading.
Okay, so I'd be interested to know if in the case of one alley that you feel like this would be very cumbersome to, have to go through this ad process, make an ordinance for that one alley, rather than such a broad ordinance that would impact as well, like the Civic Center. I think the ramifications are too great.
Okay, any other questions or comments? All right, seeing none, roll call, Director?
Councilmember Kelly,
No.
Councilmember Braithwaite,
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma,
Aye.
Councilmember Burns,
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
All right. Again, just for members of the public and also for our city council, it's important to understand at the committee level, we have two readings. The first is for introduction, which is typically our first time that we're seeing something or reading something. It gives our council, community an opportunity to ask questions. And then for their staff, we'll take the feedback and then we'll bring this back for a final vote. My encouragement from any council member, if you have questions, you have 2 weeks to meet directly with staff as well. If you're a member of the community, if you have questions on any item that is before us for introduction, I encourage you to reach out to your alderman. All right, that motion passes, and then we are now at our last item, and I'm going to try to wrap this up. Just
Discussion then.
we have discussion. Mr. Rivera, are you on the line for item D1?
A14 needs to be done first.
Oh, I thought I read that.
No,
Oh,
did
gosh.
A13, we need to do A14.
Thank you, Director.
I am here.
Okay, give us 1 second just to go through item A14, and then Sarah, I know you're waiting in the wings with the correct math to go back to item A6. Item A14 is ordinance 58-021, authoring the sale of surplus, nope. Did I just read that? Yeah,
A15.
15.
I'm sorry, A14.
yeah,
Right.
right, they're They're in
Similar, but they're
tandem.
different. This is
Exactly.
the cell vehicle.
This is the cell vehicles. Item A14 is for introduction, ordinance 58-0-21, authorizing the sale of surplus property owned by the city of Evanston. Is there a second?
Second.
It's been properly moved and seconded. Are there questions? Seeing none, Director, would you like to call roll?
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Braithwaite.
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye.
All right. Motion passes. All right, Mr. Rivera or Sarah?
Go back to
Sarah.
Sarah.
Sarah, are you ready to give us the refresher on those numbers? I think it was item, where is that? A2. Sarah, do you need more time? All right, let's go ahead with.
There, I
this.
was having trouble getting myself off mute. I don't know why.
That's all right.
But I can give you the explanation. Yes, I do apologize.
That's
There was
all right.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay. There is an incorrect number. I apologize. The increase in admin should have been $5,354. The $4,015 number is the increase to the public services. But one of the things that always makes the public services cap not match, it isn't 15% of only the grant. It is also 15% of the prior year program income. And that amount is $74,015. So that total amount of public services is 15% of the new grant amount, which is $1,843,261 plus the $74,015 of program income, which is $1,917,274, and that amount, the total amount of public services is 15% of that. So that's why it doesn't add up when you add up those amounts quite the way you would expect it to. But now if you take the 4,015, which is the incremental funding from the increase in the 2021 grant that goes to public services, and the corrected amount of the admin, which is $5,354, and add it with the $17,399, you get the right amount. I apologize for that typo. And the other thing, of the $727,266,000 now allocated for livable communities, $550,000 has been allocated to city capital projects, and that leaves $177,266 to allocate to our nonprofit partners for capital projects.
Sarah, thank you for that math up. Can you do me a favor, please, just between now and council, just send a quick little edit that I can read in the copy, Director Stonebeck. And Luke, you got it?
Recommended is okay.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And I apologize for the typo.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Are there any other questions or comments? Seeing none, Director, can you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Kelly.
Aye.
Councilmember Braithwaite.
Aye.
Councilmember Nusma.
Aye.
Councilmember Burns.
Aye.
Councilmember Reed.
Aye. All right, motion passes. Mr. Rivera, are you on? We're on for a discussion item, and we are 17 minutes over time, so I'm going to trust that you're going to be efficient and then leave time for questions, sir. This item is just for discussion.
Good evening, Chairman Braithwaite, members of the Administration Public Works Committee, Mike Rivera, Parking Division Manager. I'm here before you tonight seeking direction regarding the creation of a pilot program that will require payment at various locations along the lakefront for non-residents. Based on the memo that we have presented in the packet, we are asking that you endorse the recommendations that myself and my office has made, or we seek guidance based upon any recommendations that folks on the committee would have.
All right. So again, this item's for discussion. The next time you see it before you, it will be for introduction with additional information. Are there any directions or comments to our staff? Seeing no lights for, pardon me.
So what is the projected revenue that you would expect from this?
This pilot program would cover from July 1st through September 6th. It's an introductory pilot, and it's a total of 68 days, and we are anticipating $109,344 of revenue with usage of the spaces 50% of the time at 33% occupancy, which is a very modest estimation.
And that's just a bit more than the capital investment.
That's correct.
Please, Madam Chair.
So my initial thought is that this is not the year to be doing this when we're looking to try to attract as many people to Evanston to help our recovery in all of our business districts, and the lakefront is a big attraction. So I don't feel that I could support this.
Okay.
I don't think we want to do anything. I think we want to be the friendly city that, really draws people in right now.
All right. Any other comments before we see this?
Do other communities charge for parking at their lakefront?
Yes, they do. There's a number of communities near us that charge for parking. New Buffalo, Michigan charges for parking. Lake Geneva, Wisconsin charges for parking. St. Joseph in Michigan as well charges for parking. And Berrien County in Duluth, Minnesota also charges for parking along their lakefront attractions. Prices vary from $7 resident to $15 non-resident, and other places charge $15 per day. So the prices that we're proposing are very modest, and that would be an hourly rate, and it would create turnover at the lakefront, and it would also help cover the costs that we have for servicing the lakefronts with extra cleaning, extra trash, extra sanitation of the bathrooms throughout the year, and it would also be a creative way to help increase parking revenues without raising rates holistically throughout the whole entire town at one time.
A little bit closer to home, City of Chicago does charge for parking at all of their lakefront beaches, or that's a question?
They charge at all their beaches, and Montrose Beach just came online approximately 3 weeks ago, and that one was the last free beach, is my understanding.
Mm-hmm. All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Councilman Reed?
Yes.
I'm sorry. Yes, it's you.
Thank you, Mr. Rivera. I appreciate this. I think we may be on a similar page with a lot of things regarding parking. One of the things I'd like to see, and I don't know if your team has done this to come up with these numbers, but I think one, we should just get an analysis of how many folks from Chicago are parking along the lakefront. I'd like to, get that, or I shouldn't say from Chicago, from outside of Evanston, because I know that we can, with the system that's attached to the cars, we can see if the person has an Evanston tag or not, an Evanston if they've paid the WILD tax or not. And so if we can get some numbers on how many people are parking along the lakefront that aren't currently Evanston residents or have their car registered in Evanston, that'd be great. I'm very supportive of this. In fact, I think it would be smart to go a step further, which is that everyone should pay to park along the lakefront, including Evanston residents. I think the idea of subsidizing free parking is something that we have to really start to educate residents on the burden and the cost to taxpayers when we allow for free parking. And it's kind of an unsustainable system if we want to maintain our infrastructure. I'll keep beating this drum. Property taxes are 10% of the total, the city's total budget, the $300 million that we have annually. And so we need to find revenue in responsible sources. And I do not think that paying for parking along the lakefront is a regressive source of revenue. Folks are, especially if we make the beaches free next year, I think we can use this to encourage folks to bike, walk, and use alternative forms of transportation to get to the beach, because we know that we really have to move away from encouraging people to park. We know that every expense that you use with your car leaves the city of Evanston. You know, when you pay for gas, it leaves the city of Evanston. Your car, the money leaves, insurance, all of that leaves. And we need to, if we can get more people walking and use parking as a method to induce that behavior, I think we can do that effectively. So I support this, and I hope that we can see it potentially a draft that in the future that includes paid parking for everyone along the lakefront.
Thank you for your comments. Seeing no further lights? All right. Mr. Rivera, do you think you have enough information to move forward?
Yes, I have enough information to move forward. And if I might add, in closure, this would be our first step in a demand base and market pricing, which we don't have currently in the city of Evanston, and a lot of communities are moving towards that. So as areas are becoming denser, municipalities are starting to limit the times from 2 hours or 3 hours a person can park to maybe 1 hour, or they're raising the rates from $2 an hour to $3 or $4 an hour based on the use and occupancy. So that's something that we don't have in Evanston, and this would be an introduction to that. Additionally, Councilmember Newsma had some concern about the capital investment that we would have for the equipment and the amount that we potentially may recoup during the pilot. Once the equipment is purchased, that equipment can be redeployed anywhere else that we decide to bolster pay stations on a block, or if we decide to introduce new blocks, along different business districts in town, we can redeploy those pay stations, and we would still have a use for them.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
We have one more comment.
Very quick question. Does the system that we use currently, the Park Evanston system, I forget who the vendor is, would it allow us to do dynamic pricing?
Yes.
We have a white label, which is Park Evanston, which is managed by Passport Parking Labs Incorporated, which is the same company that manages the Park Chicago app and various apps around the Chicagoland area and other municipalities as well. And I believe the answer to your question is yes. I believe the Park Evanston app has the ability to do it. I would have to double check with our on-site pay station Paybox vendor to see if they have the capability as well through the license plate recognition once an individual enters their license plates into the box.
Then I guess my last request for the proposal is that we look at implementing dynamic parking prices with this lakefront, along the lakefront to price based on demand at a given moment. And then lastly, have we thought about creating a district where, you mentioned here that this would provide additional funds for the lakefront, but there's, this money just goes into the general fund, and there have been other communities where when they start to charge for parking, they create, I forget the name, but a parking district essentially where the money that's generated from the parking rate stays in that area, and we could allocate that, have it kind of in a lockbox that goes directly to the lakefront.
The money from the pay boxes would go into the parking fund. However, revenues generated through citations. If an individual isn't paid, that's a citation that has a value. And if an individual exceeds the time limit, that's another citation that has a value. And the citations would go into the general fund, and the general fund helps, pay for these items that we're providing for the public.
Yeah, I hear you, but I'm just interested in looking at having, setting up an actual district. So instead of the money going into the parking fund, and I thank you for the correction, I misspoke, into the general fund. Instead of it going into the parking fund, it would go into a district that is, along the lakefront where all of the
and I hate to cut you off, I just want to be really mindful of time. Mr. Rivera, can you please follow up with Councilmember Reed? We're 30 minutes behind from P&D.
Yeah, that's something I'll have to follow up with our accounting team and Councilmember Reed as well.
And then you guys can talk offline to get it together before we read it, okay? My apologies, just as a statement as we move forward. So we're half an hour behind with plan development, and this item is just for discussion. So we have plenty of time between now and when it comes back for introduction to ask, your detailed questions and work directly with our staff.
Certainly, I just wanted to make sure when it comes for introduction that it has, things incorporated. And just as a point of order, if we can wait until someone's not in the middle of a sentence. Thank you.
Well, so if there are no more comments or questions pertaining to the agenda, we're going to have plan development start at 5:35. Hopefully, I've seen everyone's here. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So move.
It's been properly moved. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, all right. Seeing no additional information in front of us, P&D starts in 5 minutes. Thank you.